Nike is the world's most well-known and largest sportswear corporation. In over 50 years, one man's goal of better shoes grew into a global enterprise worth more than $100 billion. Today, we're looking back to the beginnings of Nike to see how the magic happened and what the components were for their success. Two individuals named Bill Bowerman and Phil Knight are the protagonists of our tale. After Phil Knight briefly attended Stanford University, Bill Bowerman, a track and field coach at the University of Oregon, reconnected with him. Bowerman was intrigued by the idea of enhancing the performance of sports footwear and running shoes, so he started experimenting with several models after learning a few tactics and recommendations from a local cobbler. The two decided to launch Blue Ribbon Sports, a Eugene, Oregon-based footwear business, on January 25, 1964. For many years, the business operated at track meets out of the back of a car. Phil Knight had just graduated from Stanford in 1962. As any business graduate will tell you, it's only possible to become an entrepreneur if you have good ideas. But Phil did. Back in university, he was a distance runner, and in one of his business lectures, he wrote a report suggesting the following proposal. Phil had observed how Japanese cameras had superseded German cameras, dominating the American market. He wondered if Japanese shoes could do the same for Puma and Adidas, which were quite popular in America then. Phil became obsessed with his notion of importing Japanese shoes to the United States after finishing that paper and graduating. Of course, he didn't possess any Japanese running shoes, and the few he'd seen were brought to the United States by soldiers stationed in Japan during the post-war occupation. This lack of exposure, however, only served to encourage Phil that he had stumbled across a fantastic opportunity. He realized that to take advantage of it, he'd have to contact a Japanese corporation and negotiate the importation of their goods into America, which he'd never done before. But he just did it, as befitting the man who would later develop Nike. In November 1962, he flew to Japan as a tourist and began exploring. In the lovely city of Kobe, he entered a shoe store that piqued his interest. It belonged to a firm named Onitsuka Tiger, and the shoes they created were of exceptional quality for the time, so much so that Phil was desperate to bring them back home. He pretended to be an American shoe distributor in Japan and met the company's founder. Phil created a company name on the spot and volunteered to become Onitsuka's distributor in America, a suggestion that the owner, much to his surprise, accepted. Phil had become the sole distributor for Onitsuka Tiger in the United States, with nothing more than his confidence. In 1963, he received his first shipment of 12 pairs of Tiger shoes and began selling them from the back of his automobile at any running track he could get to. His technique wasn't scalable, so he turned to the only guy he knew who knew more about shoes than he did, Bill Bowerman, his former coach at the University of Oregon. Bill was easily one of the most well-known instructors in America at the time, having guided several Olympic athletes. He was so taken with the Tiger sneakers that he wanted to collaborate. Thus, in January 1964, Bill and Phil formed Blue Ribbon Sports, investing $500 apiece. They spent it all on their first order, which totaled 300 pairs of shoes at $3.33 each. The shipment arrived in April 1964, and because of Bill's contacts, it was completely sold out by July. BRS sold $8,000 in shoes in their first year, and with that money, Phil began hiring salespeople for his company. Their revenue had climbed to $20,000 by 1965, and they soon launched their store in Santa Monica. But while Phil was in charge of the business, Bill was the innovator. He was the man who single-handedly introduced jogging to the United States. He wrote a book about it in 1966 that sold over 1 million copies, and his company was among the first to manufacture Tiger shoes for jogging. Bowerman was passionate about innovation, and with each new shipment from Onitsuka, he'd break up a few shoes to examine how they were produced. He'd always strive to enhance them by adding cushioning or using lighter materials, for example. He was practically designing Onitsuka's shoes for Japan by always sending them messages asking for improvements. As he dubbed it, the Cortez became one of the best-selling shoes in 1968, presumably due to the 1968 Olympics hosted in Mexico. It was one of Bill's ideas that launched BRS into the spotlight. BRS sold $300,000 worth of shoes in 1969 because of Cortez. However, they faced a significant challenge because the Cortez was so popular, They needed to help meet demand. Every fresh delivery they received was sold more quickly than the previous one, but Onitsuka continued to send them at the same glacial rate. Onitsuka sent whatever was left to America after meeting their domestic demand in Japan. Phil and Bill understood that to grow, they would have to go beyond being a straightforward distributor. Fortunately, their agreement would expire in 1972, just before the Munich Olympics. Phil had plenty of time to plan his major move as a result. He began developing the trademark in 1971, and his first worker recommended naming the company Nike or Nike after the Greek goddess of victory. Then, when Phil required a logo, he went to a nearby institution, grabbed the first girl he could find studying graphic design, and asked her to create one for him. He acquired the swoosh for the outstanding sum of $35. That money was well spent, and Phil was now prepared for the Olympics with his new branding. This time, Phil built a network of subcontractors throughout Japan rather than securing exclusive contracts. The first Nike shoe was created in Bauman's waffle iron and was known as the Moon Shoe. Bill Bauman was eating breakfast when he had the idea for the waffle sole. He wondered if the grooves in his waffle would provide more grip when playing sports. The waffle trainer was eventually created after several attempts with the waffle iron. Because of its gripping and performance-focused design, it became almost instantly popular. The first Nike sneaker was officially a prototype and was auctioned off at Sotheby's for close to $450,000. A more sophisticated version of the Moon Shoe was the first Nike shoe sold in stores. Athletes at US track competitions received the shoe, later known as the Nike Waffle Racer. Despite being well-designed and a modest success, the Waffle Racer still needed to propel Nike to the same heights as Adidas or Puma. A fresh design did, however, assist in putting them on the correct course. The pair gained success with a design initially known as the Aztec. Because Adidas already had a sneaker with the same name, the shoe was renamed the Nike Cortez to honor the history and the fall of the Aztecs. Because of its innovative design and technology, the Cortez was a huge hit after its debut in the Mexico Games, and it helped Nike become the sneaker empire we know today. Nike Incorporated, a multinational corporation based in the United States, is the world's biggest supplier and manufacturer of athletic shoes and a significant supplier of sports equipment. Other major competitors in the business include Adidas, Puma, and Under Armour. Nike Incorporated is the parent business of several brands, including Nike, Converse, and Jordan. It is located in Beaverton, Oregon, USA. Nike sells various products under its name, including but not limited to Nike Pro, Nike Plus, Nike Blazers, Nike Dunk, Air Max, Air Jordan, and Phantom. Nike supports high-profile athletes and sports teams worldwide, including Cristiano Ronaldo, Rory McIlroy, LeBron James, Rafael Nadal, Barcelona, RB Leipzig, and Paris Saint-Germain. Nike is driven by the desire to be the best. Nike founder Phil Knight envisioned outsourcing Japanese shoes to the American market in the 1960s. Phil, a former competitive runner, forwarded the shoes to his former coach Bill Bowerman. Bill Bowerman was so taken with the shoes that he ordered more and became a co-founder of Nike, then known as Blue Ribbon Sports. The firm then employed runners to sell their running shoes to other runners. They quickly hired champions who only wore Nike sneakers because of this tactic. All of this culminated at the 1996 Atlanta Olympics, where Nike-sponsored athlete Michael Johnson made history by winning gold in the 200 meters and 400-meter events. He did it while dressed in the now famous golden boots. These golden boots, along with Michael Johnson, were once again featured on the cover of Time. Nike sent shockwaves through every sports fan and even the IOC with this. The issue with Nike's marketing was that sports enthusiasts believed Nike was the official sponsor of the 1996 Atlanta Olympics. However, Reebok's sponsor has spent hundreds of millions of dollars. When Nike marketing execs took advantage of this opportunity, they established marketing standards that even received a commendation from Steve Jobs. Find Your Greatness, a 2012 London Olympics campaign that captured everyday people's drive, stood out because it was filmed in locales in London, the time where the Olympics were being held. Because of this, Nike and the Olympics became synonymous. They were once more not the official Olympic sponsors though. According to the IOC, ambush marketing is a premeditated attempt by a third party to link itself with the Olympic Games in order to earn the recognition or benefits of being an Olympic partner. This was a textbook example of ambush marketing. They hadn't broken any laws, which was the main issue. With marketing like this, the product was the only area they still needed to focus on. The product is the final element that has helped Nike clothing become the preferred choice for consumers. Bill Bowerman, a co-founder of Nike, began creating the waffle outsole in the 1970s by using his wife's waffle maker. That turned out to be a blessing for the runners who were sprinting on the synthetic track. Nike was the driving force behind the US running revolution that began in the late 1970s, using a waffle machine to create shoes and penning books on the sport. Nike understood what consumers wanted. The majority of businesses will promote their running shoes as a way to run faster. Nike, however, created a story to encourage people to exercise. This made it obvious for the average user to purchase Nike products, especially because athletes wore Nike boots. Nike's advertising is a critical component of marketing. Nike offers endorsement contracts to celebrities and athletes with a large social media following. In turn, celebrities and athletes wear Nike clothes and promote Nike products. Most people agree that campaigns, celebrity endorsements, ads, and sustainable manufacturing are effective worldwide marketing methods. Nike can capitalize on e-commerce by using social media. Nike employs these marketing methods, making it the market's largest sportswear firm. The 2017 company restructuring, where the emphasis was on selling by focusing on the customer, is another excellent example of how Nike has successfully aligned business and customer interests. Nike had a better opportunity to make a move to expand its product offering to include a fashion component thanks to its website. Thanks to the website, Nike no longer needs to sell at wholesale prices. Instead, companies can sell straight to consumers at the suggested retail price, offering better margins and opportunities for discounts with celebrities like Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods, and Cristiano Ronaldo.